today we're going to learn how to peel tomatoes. So today I have some organic Roma tomatoes, and I'm going to be making a recipe with the Roman tomatoes, and I need to peel them because we don't want the peel in what I'm making. And I've already peeled up a batch of them, and I have this last batch to go. And what we'll do is I'll show you how to peel them, and then after we peel them, then we're going to slice them and de-seed them, and then it'll be ready for our recipe. So I've got a boiling kettle here of boiling water, and I'm going to pour the water over the bowl of tomatoes. You can use a pot on the stove that's boiling water is fine. I choose not to do that because they're only going to be in here for a minute. So I'm going to set the timer for a minute. And what we'll do is we'll wait a minute. And I just sort of move them around. And we're just loosening the skin. We're not going to cook the tomato. And this will just make the skin sort of shrivelly. And then what we'll do is we'll split them in half, and then we'll get all the seeds out of them. So, and then we'll chop them up and get them ready for the stock pot to make our recipe, which will be in the next video. If you'd like to see specific instructions on this process, you can go to our blog at potspansandpioneers.com. Okay, I'm going to start lifting these out of the our minutes, about 10 seconds, and we're going to put them in ice water. We don't want them to cook, so we got to work pretty quickly to get them in ice water to stop them from cooking. Because the longer they're in that hot water, the temperature of the tomato is increasing, and we don't want to do that. If you were freezing these, you wouldn't want cooked tomatoes in your freezer, you'd want fresh tomatoes. Since we're going to cook these in a recipe, it seems odd not to want to cook them, but for the purposes of skinning them, you don't want to work with a cooked tomato. Okay, we're going to get them in the ice bath. We'll move the hot water out of the way. Now, Roma tomatoes are sometimes a little more stubborn than a regular beefy tomato or round tomato. They're just a little bit more difficult to work with. Sometimes, you know, no matter what you do, the skin doesn't want to come off. So what I do is I score it all the way around, and as you can see how it just rolled down, the skin just rolled down that tomato. So all I do is come back with a little paring knife, and I'm using gloves just because I don't want to get these tomatoes stain really well, as you can see on the gloves, and I don't want my hands stained up. So all we're going to do is we're going to peel. And then we're going to leave them whole until we got them all finished. And I'm just going to score around just like that, how you see the skin pulling back. And we're just going to peel. Anytime you're making tomato sauce or you're making a cooked recipe for tomatoes, you truly don't want tomato skin in your mouth while you're eating. So we're just going to peel. I'll do one more, and then I'll get these peeled up, and we'll be back to see them. As you can see, that one's a little tough. It always depends on where they're setting in the bowl, in the hot water. And they become slippery once the skin's off of them. So you just try not to dig into the flesh of the tomato while you're peeling it back. And we've got one small piece, you know, right here. Okay, I'm going to get the rest of these peeled back, and then when we come back, I'll show you how to slice and seed them. Okay, we're back. I've got all the Roma tomatoes peeled. And what we're going to do is we're going to de-seed them. So I'm going to slice the Roma tomato in half. Be very careful. You could use a cutting board. I've done this before, so I know how to do it. You're gonna take your half and you're gonna scrape the inside of it into a bowl. And then you put it aside. This is the easiest way to de-seed. Some people use a different method. They cut it in half and they use a knife. This is just the way I do it. Everything's slippery, so you got to have real good control. And all I'm doing is just making sure the seeds. Removing the seeds and the heart of the tomato does not remove the flavor. That's a myth, but you don't need to do that. Worry about it. Okay. And some of them get squishy, and it's very slippery. Get as many of the seeds out as possible. And I always like to cut the tops off. I'm not really going all the way through the tomato when I slice down, because you don't want to cut yourself. And most of these pretty fresh. This is the vein, or I've always called it the heart. It's what gives the tomato life. So we just want to get rid of that so it doesn't go in our soup. And if you have livestock or anything like that, or even pigs being part of your livestock, they love the remnants of slicing tomatoes, so you can always save the peelings and the tomato hearts for them and put it in their food. My grandmother used to give them to her chickens. Pretty much everything that you would put down a garbage disposal, with the exception of a few things, she would put in a bucket beside her sink, because they didn't have garbage disposals, and she would give it to the chickens or the pigs. One of them got it. All right, I'm going to go ahead and de-seed these tomatoes, and when we come back, we'll get them. We're going to use our chopper. We're going to cheat a little bit and use our chopper, and we're going to chop them up and get them ready for our recipe. So we will be back. Okay, we've got all of our Roma tomatoes seeded and peeled, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give them a chop in the Ninja. If there's any remaining seeds, trust me when I tell you, the Ninja is going to obliterate them, so they won't really matter. I've gotten probably 90% of the seeds removed. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give these a rough chop and put them in the little Ninja. I wouldn't recommend using the magic bullet on this, because you're wanting just a rough chop. We're not going to really break these all the way completely down. There'll still be some small chunks in there. I wouldn't even use a blender. I'd use a chopper or food processor on the chop side. So if you have a food processor, or if you just even want to do this by hand, you can. Not everybody has the conveniences of appliances, especially if you're living off-grid. Okay. I'm just giving these a rough chop. Like I said, if you see any seeds, they're going to be gone here in a second. This is approximately almost, if not a little over, 5 pounds of Roma tomatoes. Now you could just freeze them at this point, but I'm using this for a recipe, and so I'm gonna take these down to sort of a chunky sauce, and then I'm gonna put them in the stock pot ready for the next video, the next recipe. Okay, get our lid on. It'll be loud for just a second. About 3-4 pulses, and as you can see, it's just a rough chop, almost like a salsa. I'm just gonna take it, put it in the pan, and then we'll just reload. And I'm just gonna give it a rough chop. Okay, I'm gonna continue chopping and get all these ready for the stock pot. But thanks everybody for joining me. And that is how you peel, slice, and de-seed a tomato. Hope everybody has a blessed day. Be sure and subscribe to our channel and give us a thumbs up if you like this video. Thanks everyone. Have a great day.